In today's video, the settings that I use on the treadmill to go from looking like this to looking like this, how I helped my client go from looking like this to looking like this. And I'm also, as a bonus, gonna include the biggest mistakes that you can make while doing cardio. We're starting right now. In today's video, I wanna break down the idea of cardio settings for the treadmill specific to your fat loss goals. Now, before we get into this, I showed you a picture of me here, and then I showed you a picture of me here after I'd lost a lot of body fat. And I said, the only thing I did between these two photos was actually just walking, just cardio. And a lot of people will jump in and say, obviously you lifted weights. Yes, I've been lifting weights for 30 years. That does not change. What changes is my body composition, mostly related to body fat. Muscle at this point is not adding or subtracting, okay? I'm a natural bodybuilder, so I'm not making huge changes and I'm not losing muscle at this point. I'm just kind of slowly building muscle over time. So when you see these big visual differences in my physique, it's because I've lost body fat. It's a huge illusion. So there's a lot to consider when it comes to treadmill settings. And I want you to also understand that treadmill settings is just a part of the big picture. When it comes to fat loss, if you think that your cardio is going to be the solution, well, we've got to talk about the big picture. So when I get to the end, I'm going to talk about the biggest mistakes when it comes to cardio. Let's talk about treadmill settings. Now, when you first get on a treadmill, if you leave it flat and you put it at, say, 2 miles an hour, that's a pretty slow stroll. We might be around 150 to 200 calories an hour, depending on your size and conditioning level. So if you're burning about 200 calories an hour and you get up and you do that every now and then, that's going to help you do a lot of things. I think the real magic for me with cardio is that it kind of sets up your day for success. It's going to improve your mindset. It's going to improve your body composition. It's going to improve digestion. But just doing some type of movement, I highly recommend it, especially if you're like me, stuck at a desk all day. Okay, this is what I do for a job. My exercise is usually driving to the gym and driving back, other than playing with my kids. So for me, the treadmill is my great escape. If you're already very active, I'll talk to you at the end of the video about the mistakes that are probably causing you to have a problem. And it's not going to be your cardio because you're active. So the treadmill setting that I love the most, and the reason why I love the treadmill, is the incline. That's right. When you set the incline at 2, 3, 4, 5, you increase calories burned per hour by 40 to 50 calories every time you go up. Okay. That's going to allow you to burn more calories in the same amount of time. It's also going to allow you to burn more calories when you hit a sticking point. This is where fat loss and the treadmill become really beneficial, because in the same amount of time, if I'm eating a certain amount of calories and doing a certain amount of cardio, I can simply change the settings on the treadmill. So what I'll do over time is increase that speed, increase that incline, thus increasing the intensity. Paul, why don't you walk outside? It's so beautiful outside. Well, I got news for you. It's not always beautiful outside, okay? It's sometimes raining. It's sometimes hot. It's sometimes cold. It's sometimes a bad neighborhood. It's sometimes just impossible to get outside to walk. However, it's always 72 with a big TV in front of my treadmill. If it's 5 a.m., if it's midnight, if it's the middle of the day, I can do cardio at my disposal. Do I love walking outside? Absolutely. Guys, I was just in London coaching one of my bodybuilders this weekend, and I got 21,000 steps in one day. That's right. So yes, I do love to walk outside, but the things that you can't control outside, you can control inside. How many calories you burn, the incline, the speed, and also just the intensity of the exercise that you're doing is just really valuable. Plus having access to it at all times. So let's talk about where my treadmill settings go along the way. So if I have a client and let's say I set them up on their beginning plan and I have them walking 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Okay. Now, after a couple weeks, let's just say that they hit a plateau. What's the next thing to do? Well, I can increase that incline to 2, and I can increase the speed from 2.5 to 2.8. They're walking a little bit faster. They're walking a little bit on an incline. And what happens? They're burning more calories in the same amount of time. However, they've kind of adapted to that lower setting, right? So although you're burning more calories, you're actually just upping the ante on the calories burned per session to keep up with the demands of fat loss. Okay, what does fat loss entail? Fat loss entails that we are creating a caloric deficit. So cardio is a tool that we use to ensure we are taking in less calories and burning more calories. Okay, it's a combination effect. So let's talk about the maximum place I like to get my cardio. Now, when my fitness level is really high, now last year I did a video where I did 1 hour of cardio every day for 30 minutes. I also got down to contest lean, won a bodybuilding competition, and I was probably somewhere in the 6 to 7% body fat range. At that point, when I am very lean, when I am close to 200 pounds and I am really trucking, I can get that treadmill up to 5 or 6 on the incline. This is my Nordic Track Elite 3700. Every machine's different. So if I'm around that incline and my speed gets between 3 to 3.5, I tell you, I am really moving. I am really sweating. And I try to, at some points, try to burn more than 5, sometimes 600 calories per session, okay? Now, that's not what I do at the beginning, but I gradually increase it. Every time I hit a sticking point, I'm tracking my accountability and I'm saying, okay, Paul, you're not losing body fat, you're not getting leaner, so it's time to adjust the diet and it's time to adjust the settings on the treadmill. So the reason I love the treadmill is because you can gradually increase the intensity. Now, a lot of people will say, well, coach, aren't you just going to adapt to that level of cardio? Yes, you are. And that's why the treadmill is so valuable. However, you're adapting to something while you're also having less body fat. So remember, when you have less body fat, your body becomes more efficient. So you have to do more to get that body fat off. And this is where I think people get a little bit confused. However, once you reach the body fat level that you want to be, you don't have to keep up that cardio level. You can bring the cardio down and the calories up to maintenance. You no longer have to be in a caloric deficit. Now let's talk about the biggest mistakes people make doing cardio. First things first, by simply doing cardio, you are not going to lose body fat. Cardio is not going to be the thing that changes everything for you because it is a two-pronged approach. You have to create a caloric deficit, so you have to be accountable to your diet. Now, if you're eating at maintenance every single day and you keep your diet exactly the same and you just start adding in an hour of cardio, that could potentially be the thing that creates that 300, 400, 500 calorie a day deficit that does get fat loss moving. What I typically find is that when my clients stall, I have to make about a 200 to 300 calorie adjustment. Now, if you do that with both diet, dropping maybe 150, 200 calories and increasing the endurance or intensity of your cardio, you can therefore elicit the response that you want by bringing calories down a little bit, bringing cardio up a little bit, thus ensuring that you're in a caloric deficit. So don't think of cardio as something that's going to get it done. That is probably the biggest mistake that I see people making with cardio. Also, people tend to compensate with too much food from a cardio session. They go for a jog, they go for a sprint, they go for a bike ride, they come home and they immediately overeat. Research is very clear on this. When people are not being accountable, they overconsume the calories thinking that they are compensating, but they are overcompensating. The biggest mistake that I see, and it's one of my pet peeves when I see it in the gym, is people setting the treadmill to full speed, setting the incline to as high as it goes, wrapping their arms around the machine, leaning on it, and just moving their feet a little bit, okay? This defeats the purpose of doing cardio. That is the biggest mistake. You should be doing cardio in a manner where you are free from the machine. I like to think of it as walking up a hill. If you go outside and you walk up a hill or side of a mountain, you are going to be out of breath. That's how you should feel on a treadmill, okay? There really is no benefit. And then likewise with the Stairmaster, I see quite a few people just literally resting half of their body weight on there. Defeats the purpose. Your body weight and your body is what's allowing you to burn the calories. If you take away that and are just moving your feet, you're really bringing the calorie burn quite a bit down. So that's, for me, the most common mistake that I see is that they are tracking the calories burned on the machine, although they're not burning that many calories because they're not using their body weight to support their calorie expenditure, right? They're just moving their feet. The final cardio mistake that I see, and this is one that I made years ago, is that thinking that HIIT or high intensity interval cardio is superior to steady state cardio for fat loss. And here's why I think that's not the case. While yes, it is true that if I walk for 30 minutes versus doing sprints intervals for 30 minutes, I'm gonna burn more calories during those sprint intervals. However, what that doesn't tell you is that over the next 23 hours and 30 minutes, if I just did some walking, I'm gonna burn more calories throughout the rest of that day. And I'm also not gonna be beat up and fatigued. HIIT cardio, true HIIT cardio, intervals where you're running sprints, it can be very demanding on your joints, on your body. It also creates an oxygen deficit that does what? Increases hunger. I was ravenous when I was dieting and doing bodybuilding shows, doing high intensity cardio. When I switched to walking, and that's all I do, guys. All I do is walk. Now, my walking is probably more intense than just what you think of going outside as a scroll, but that's the most intense thing I do is do an incline walk. My hunger signals have never been better. Even when I get completely shredded, I'm still able to control my hunger. I still feel better. And honestly, sometimes when I'm feeling a little bit hungry, I'll actually go do a walk and it will bring my hunger down a little bit more. So the biggest mistakes you can make is thinking that by doing HIIT cardio, you're going to burn all these extra calories because you're doing sprints. Yes, there is something called EPOC, or the excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. You will burn a little bit of calories after the session versus walking, where calories will kind of be tied to just the session. However, when you look at the 24-hour window, people that do walking are typically going to burn more calories throughout the rest of the day because they don't rest, okay? They have more energy to get up and walk. And so what matters is the 24-hour window, not just that 30 minutes. However, if you love HIIT cardio, get out there and do it. At the end of the day, you got to get out there and do what you enjoy, guys. Get up and do it, what makes you happy. I have found what makes me happy. I have found what allows me to lose body fat, keep it off for me, my clients. But hey, that's just me. Hopefully you guys are having a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.